Hi everyone. Most of you watching this will know who we are, but if you somehow happen to pick us up on YouTube, my name's Mark. This is my beautiful wife, Alison. And the purpose of this video is to really provide you with a summary of our recent trip to Europe. Now, the reason why we're doing this video is twofold. One is so we don't actually forget what we did while we're over in Europe. So as we get older and grow senile, we just want to make sure we remember what we did. But it might also be that some of family and friends wanted to hear more detail about our trip. And so this video will help you with that. Now, our trip started on the 6th of January. We went to Sydney Airport late afternoon. Our flight with Qatar Airways took off around about 10 p.m. We had a stopover in Doha, and then we arrived in Berlin in the early afternoon of the 7th of January. And my first memory of flying into Berlin was just looking out the plane window and just seeing that everything was white, covered in snow. So we'd left a very sunny Sydney, hot Sydney, and we encountered a very cold Berlin.
Yes, and my first memory is of walking out of the airport into the car park area to go and get our rental car and being very, very cold. So we'd put our ski coats on, but not our thermal leggings. No, yeah, it was much too cold.
It was very cold. So we got our hire car, and I must admit I was a little bit apprehensive about driving from the airport to our apartment, which was about a 40-minute drive, in a bit of a jet lag state, driving on the wrong side of the road, on the wrong side of the car. And at one point during the trip, I think we had a road, cobblestone road, that lasted about a kilometre or so, which was very narrow. And so that was a bit scary.
And it wasn't even a one-way, I
Yeah.
don't think.
Yeah, it wasn't a one-way street because we had
Only-
cars coming the other
Yeah,
way.
you only just squeeze between the parked cars.
But at the end of the journey was great joy.
But there was Annalise waiting for us outside our unit block.
Yes, yes. And I gave her a big hug.
Yeah, he hogged her.
Yes.
I had to tell him to stop so I could have a go.
But Annalise likes dad hugs, so I wanted to make sure she wasn't disappointed.
Mum hugs too.
Yes. So anyway, so we saw Annalise, settled in for the night, checked out her little unit, had dinner at a local pizza restaurant just up the road from where she lives. So that was our first day in Berlin. And then second day, 8th of January, what sorts of things did we get up to?
Well, I think we walked and met Annalise at a bus stop, and then we went into Berlin and she showed us around. So she took us first to the Victory Column, and it's got like a first bit you can walk up with a rotunda thing, and then there's a column with spiral staircase in the middle that you can go up. And Annalise and I decided to be wusses and not climb, but Mark went all the way to the top.
I did go up, and as you'll be able to see from photos, you can really see all of Berlin from the top of this particular Victory Tower. So that was a really, really good thing. I must say it was quite cold up there, and all of Berlin, as you'll see, was just really grey on that particular day. Lots of snow around, but the sky was quite grey. Yeah. Where else did we go after that?
Well, I think next, I can't remember the order, but we walked around and we saw an old church that had been damaged in World War II and had been left in its damaged state. We also saw another church. I can't remember what it was. We didn't go into it. Then we went to the Brandenburg Gate.
The Brandenburg Gate, a symbol of national unity in Germany. So,
yep. And then we walked up the street that's on, which is full of embassies. That was interesting. Found somewhere to have lunch, and then we went to the Checkpoint Charlie.
Yep, Checkpoint Charlie, and we saw a segment of the old Berlin Wall during that time too.
And it started to snow.
Yes, which Alison was very happy about because she reckoned she hadn't seen snowfall before. So
never falling. So we caught some on our glove.
So she was very excited.
And it was very, very gentle though, so which was nice.
Yes. And then we went to Annalisa's university.
No, we went to the Jewish museum. Oh, well, I don't know if it was a Jewish museum.
Well, that was the one near the wall.
Near the wall, yeah. I can't remember what it's called.
Yep. And we went to Annalisa's university where we met her friend that she's made over there, Rebea, and heard about Rebea's story following Jesus in the last year, which was very, very exciting. And so the day kind of wrapped up. And then next day,
Annalise came back to our unit that
yes,
night, and we had our leftover pizza for dinner.
that's right.
And she gave me some Christmas wine,
There you go.
which had to be heated up on the stove.
Yes.
So that was good.
So next day, January 9, we headed off to Amsterdam in the car.
And as you can see from the photos, very nice sunrise, very pretty. And then,
Well, before we go to what happened, so I never really wanted to go to Germany. The reason why we went to Germany was because to see Annalise. But if there was one thing that I really wanted to do in Germany, if I was ever going to go there, was to drive on an autobahn. And I thought, yes, you beauty, I get to drive on an autobahn. And it was good for a little while. But then as we were kind of getting closer to a town called Hanover, probably 50, 60 Ks out of Hanover, everything just started getting chaotic. Snow started covering the autobahn. So there's a video which we'll put up on screen now, and you will see it was a set of awful conditions. I don't think I've ever driven in such diabolical conditions as those. There's a couple of times I thought the car's out of control, but somehow by the grace of God managed to pull it back. And we stopped to the north of Hanover to have some lunch. And I was really questioning the wisdom of that, because once we got off the motorway, this particular place was just covered in snow. And I was wondering if we were ever going to be able to get out. Indeed, the restaurant waiter that we went to, he talked about how it was the worst conditions he'd ever seen, and he'd lived there all his life. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it was a nice lunch, thank goodness. And yeah, I'm sure Mark was very much due for a break after driving for 4 hours straight in those conditions.
Yes. So anyway, we, by the grace of God, were able to get out of that area, back onto the motorway. Another 40, 50 Ks of that sort of, those sort of diabolical conditions. And then, praise God, things started to get much better. So we had rain, but we didn't have roads covered in snow. So it was a much easier set of conditions to drive in. Unfortunately, Annalise's residency permit hadn't come through, so we weren't able to take her over the border with us. So we dropped her off in a town called Bad Bentheim, and it was a cute little town. But after we dropped her off at her hotel there, we discovered it was a very, very narrow set of streets to get out of with our very big BMW X3 hire car. But we managed to get out of there, and we arrived safely later that night in Amsterdam, and enjoyed getting some sleep after what was a very stressful day. So we get to Amsterdam on the night of the 9th. The 10th was the day that we spent in Amsterdam. And so, Alison, you were really hoping to go to one particular place in Amsterdam, but it didn't work out.
Yeah, I wanted to go to Ten Boom House, which is the hiding place where Corrie ten Boom and her family hid Jews during World War II, and yeah, they hid them there and resettled them in remote farm places and so on until they were caught. And yeah, I've read the book a few times and very much wanted to see that. But because of the weather, and it's a volunteer-run place, they said, look, it's going to be too hard for our volunteers to come, so we're going to decide that we're closing. That was very, very sad after crossing the world. Anyway, so, but we still did get to go to Anne Frank House. So we went there first, but we missed our bus stop. So then we had to walk a 15 or so minute walk, but we only had 15 minutes to do it, or we would have been late for our time slot. And the ground was icy.
Very slippery.
Pick our steps very carefully. And I did lose my balance and end up on my hands and knees. And as soon as I got up, we then saw a bike rider slip and lose his grip and end up on the ground too. So that was a bit of a worry.
Yes, but we did get to our slot at Anne Frank House, and it was I didn't really know much about Anne Frank before going, and so it was very interesting hearing the story about this obviously very bright teenage girl who, with her family and some others, was in hiding from the Nazis for a couple of years, writing her diary, but very sadly got caught just when victory for the Allies seemed to be in sight, and ended up dying. Her father was the only one that survived, and was received her diaries and committed to have them printed. And so many people, including Alison, have read those, and the Anne Frank House shows us where it was that they were in hiding for those 2 years. So that was certainly a very informative experience for me. We were meant to go to the Ten Boom House that afternoon, but instead we went to the Van Gogh Museum.
Yeah, Van Gogh, I think.
Gogh.
Yeah.
Something like that. Not off, not go.
Yeah.
Gogh.
Gogh. It was really good. Yeah. So beautifully set out, and the audio guide was nice and concise and interesting, and yeah, we had a lovely time.
And we learned a lot about the whole how Van Gogh ended up his works becoming well known.
Through his sister-in-law.
Yep, that was really interesting. And there were also paintings by his contemporaries sort of there as well. So it wasn't just about Van Gogh, it was about others as well who played a part in the story. So that was, and famous paintings like sunflowers and irises were there on display as well. So it was, yeah, good time.
Lots of self-portraits too.
Yes. And then we decided, given that we weren't going to Ten Boom House, that we should do a canal tour.
Ooh. So we just walked we walked past the big museum, which would have been nice if we'd had another day to go to the Rijksmuseum. But we found a canal tour, and it was in half an hour, but it was so freezing. There was no way we could just stand there and wait for our tour. So we walked across a canal and found somewhere to have a hot chocolate, and then came back and got into the nice warm boat and went on our canal tour.
And we discovered that Amsterdam actually has more canals than Venice.
Yeah.
So, fun fact.
Fun fact, yeah. And we went past lots and lots of canals, and we saw that all along the streets lining the canals, there are just rows and rows and rows of bicycles, because everybody rides their bikes around. We should take a leaf out of their book. But their city is much more compact, and yeah, wouldn't work for us. But it was really great to see.
And one of the things that was also talked about was that the stairwells in these houses are so narrow that you can never move furniture in through the house. You've always got it. There's a sort of a crane type thing at the front of each house, or a pulley sort of thing, where they actually lift things up and put things in through windows. So that was an interesting thing to learn as well. So anyway, we made our way back from the city, because we were just sort of staying out the west of the city a little bit, and had some great Dutch cuisine called Burger King on our way back. It was right next to our hotel, so it was just easy to do after a long day touring around. Anyway, we hopped in the car on the 11th of January, and we headed south into Belgium. And the first place that we went to was a place called Ypres. There's different spellings of it, but in Belgium it's I-E-P-E-R, Ypres. And the reason why we went there was because the man that we believe is my great-grandfather, a man by the name of Harry Neild, died in World War I on the Western Front. And there is a big arch in Ypres called the Menin Arch. And Harry Neild's name is inscribed on that arch with the names of thousands of other Commonwealth service people who I think died without a grave, specific grave.
Yeah,
so
it was not known where they fell.
Yeah. So So yeah, so for me that was a bit of a just retracing where my great grandfather went. Ypres was a cute little town. It was obviously devastated during World War One, but it had been rebuilt and
Yeah, rebuilt as it was before, and it looked old. It was amazing.
yeah.
Unbelievable.
So that was a cute little town. So it was really, really good just to be able to go there and to see that. And from there, we drove to Bruges, and our internet wasn't working properly, so we were having navigation issues.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, trying to find your way around Bruges without your navigation working is an absolute nightmare. But by the grace of God, we found a car park near the town square where we had to go for our guided walking tour. And I think the lady's name was Golba. We can't remember. I'm pretty sure it was Golba. It was something like that. And what we discovered was that there was a very chilly, icy wind from the North Sea blowing through Bruges. And so our 2.5 hour walking tour was a very, very cold experience. And Golba, assuming that's what her name was, could talk and would often have us standing still in places for a while. So we were freezing at the end of the tour.
Everything she said was very interesting.
It was. But what were some of the highlights of Bruges for you?
Oh, well, so Golba told us that Bruges had its glory days from about the 13th century up till the year 1504. And so all the buildings, very grand buildings, were all built in that period because it was a very important trade capital. And in 1504, the canal silted up, so they could no longer do trade. So the town became quite impoverished. Therefore, nobody could afford to knock down and rebuild houses, and so the old houses just stayed there and are still there. And now that the country is quite wealthy, they've been able to do everything up, restore things, and I guess reinforce things and preserve them. And so it really is like stepping back 500 years in time, walking around this little city. Yeah, amazing.
And famous for the film In Bruges. And it seems that since that film was made back in about 2008, I think it was, lots of tourists now come into Bruges, and it seems that that's really the major driver of the local economy there, is all the tourists coming through. So, so we had a nice little hotel room to stay in there, and a nice little restaurant that we ate at. That was across
the restaurant was so nice.
Hotel. So
had a big open fire, and the chef, he actually cooked the food at this fireplace. So I don't know how he did it, but yeah, it was quite amazing. Yeah.
Yep. So that was good fun. So next morning, so the 12th of January, we hopped in the car nice and early and headed down the motorway to Brussels, and a bit of traffic. And we discovered that Brussels really isn't an easy city to navigate by car. And again, we were still having internet issues. We had a lot of internet issues in Brussels. For some reason, our service didn't work too well in Belgium generally. And anyway, so we were a bit panicked about reaching our walking tour on time, but we did it just. And so leading us around the walking tour was a Swiss man named Clemens, who was an absolutely lovely, very outgoing, very fun kind of guy. And yeah, we saw all sorts of things.
And there were a bunch of other Aussies on our walking tour as well.
Yes.
A couple from
Adelaide
and a guy from Melbourne.
Yeah.
Was that all?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what stood out for you with Brussels?
Well, I found out that they have a king and queen. I didn't even know.
So we saw the Royal Palace. Yeah.
We also saw Mannequin Peace, which is this famous little boy statue, black statue of a little boy peeing. And he's just this icon for Belgians because he personifies resistance and so apparently there's many old legends about this thing and how it originated, but one of them is that it was a little boy who climbed a tree and was peeing on French soldiers.
There was another one, I think, where he there was dynamite set off and he peed on the the dynamite thing to stop it and saved everyone. So there's all these different stories. They even dress him in different sorts of outfits. There's a museum. We didn't get to see it, but there's a museum dedicated to outfits for this particular character.
Yep.
But we did try Belgian waffles. We discovered that
And
really,
chocolate.
yeah, but we discovered that really with Belgian waffles, you don't put stuff on them. The ones with stuff on them are called tourist waffles
By the locals.
And so the waffles as they are actually quite nice. You don't need all the other stuff on them. And chocolates is obviously another big part of Belgium.
And chips.
Yes, and so we did get chocolates in Bruges, and we tried a hot chocolate with some very famous chocolatier in Brussels, but
it was awful.
It really wasn't the best hot chocolate I've ever had. Yeah. And then getting out of Brussels to go to stay with our dear friends, the Healy Hutchinsons, was just an absolute nightmare. Google wasn't helping us, but by the grace of God, we eventually got to see James and Miriam and Clara Healy Hutchinson. So James and I studied together at Moore College, and we still correspond even to this day, 26 years after we finished college. And so it was an absolute delight to hear about the work that James is doing as the principal of IBB, a Belgium Bible college, which is really geared at equipping French speakers or people to take the gospel out into the French-speaking world. And so James, it was very encouraging hearing about what's going on with him. And it was just lovely speaking with him and Miriam and a little bit with Clara that night, but also the next morning. So they were very, very generous in their care of us.
Yeah.
So after chatting with the Healy Hutchinsons for a while, the next morning on the 13th, we headed off from Brussels, travelling towards Luxembourg, but on the way we
stopped at the Waterloo Battle Museum. So the battleground, it's only about half an hour out of Brussels. There's a big museum about the whole battle. So that was interesting, but it wasn't all that well laid out. So things were not really in chronological order, and the audio guide was much too detailed. And anyway, but it was interesting. And there was a big panorama picture thing as well of the battle. And there was a short movie, and the movie was quite well done too. Yeah. So it did give you more of a idea of what happened in the battle that stopped Napoleon.
I think one of the things that kind of struck me about not just being there in Waterloo, but just being in, these different parts of Europe that we went to generally, is just how much life has been lost because of war in those sorts of regions. So it's really, I know wars have occurred everywhere, but this is really an area of the world which has encountered many, many wars. So anyway, we kept on driving down to Luxembourg. We arrived as the sun was setting. Again, navigation was always hard work, particularly with these narrow streets, but we found our way to the Airbnb place that we were staying in. Luxembourg is very expensive when it comes to accommodation. Very cheap, though, when it comes to petrol, and public transport is free. We stayed in a little village just outside of the city of Luxembourg called Dommeldange, which was great because we had a car space. But also there were restaurants close by, and public transport was very close by as well. So we ate our first night there, which was probably, I think, the worst restaurant we went to the night there.
Wasn't tasty.
And the chicken was dry and stuff like that. But anyway, so next day we woke up, so the 14th of January, and we headed into the old part of Luxembourg.
Yeah, so first we went to the Bock Casements, which is this big fortification thing in the rocky cliffs around the old town. And so there's tunnels in there that obviously soldiers used to use. Apparently in, I think, the 1860s or something, most of that lot of fortifications had to be demolished when Luxembourg became an independent, neutral country. But they were able to keep a little bit of it. So we got a look at that. Yeah, so it was interesting.
Yeah.
And then we went walking through the old town. Yeah, so it's very, very nice.
Yes. We had a great Luxembourg lunch, namely McDonald's.
Yeah.
Uh, but it was just, yeah, a very, very pretty sort of place to walk around. So
the river was rushing through the old town and
yeah,
past the abbey and past the church and just old buildings everywhere, narrow streets. Yeah, it was very beautiful. Yeah.
lovely place. And then we had some more Luxembourg type food that night called Chinese food at a restaurant near where we were staying, which was actually quite good.
Yes.
So that was good. So anyway, next day, hopped in the car, 15th of January, and we journeyed to a place called Baden-Baden.
Hang on.
No, that's right.
You missed critics.
Ah, of course. Sorry. Rewind. How could I forget that? Well done, Alison. So Miriam Healy Hutchinson, our friend in Brussels, mentioned to me that there was an Ayrton Senna display. So for those of you who don't know, Ayrton Senna was a Formula One driver, and that there was an Ayrton Senna display in Luxembourg. So we found it, and it was located at this place called Grid X, which is about 12 k's out of Luxembourg City. And it's this really bizarre, very new kind of shopping centre that had kind of car dealers and other types of shops. The big car sort of park in the middle, it's kind of like a big sort of square, but there are all these cars on display everywhere too. But as part of it, there were a number of cars from Ayrton Senna's career. The Williams that he drove at the time of his death, one of his McLaren cars that he won a world championship in, a beautiful JPS Lotus that he got his first win in, the Tolman, which he debuted in, as well as some go-karts and a Formula Ford car. So it's really, really, for me, having sort of watched a number of these sort of cars, it was great to see that. So I was very thankful for Miriam's tip, and I can't believe I forgot to mention that as part of this. So thank you, Alison. So we finished our time in Luxembourg. For me, that was a great highlight. And on the 15th of January, we headed towards Baden-Baden, which is in the south west of Germany in the Black Forest. But we went through France on our way.
Oh, we did. So we can count France's.
Yes, so we had a toilet stop in France, so we could say we had a stop in France. So we arrived in Baden-Baden, and again, we were just having some navigation issues, and I just kind of took a guess, and we ended up in a tunnel. I thought, oh no, we've gone the wrong way. We were trying to go to a thing called a funicular railway, and by the grace of God, when we came out of the tunnel and we saw a sign to the funicular railway. The key reason why I wanted to go to Baden-Baden was because it was talked about as having a place with great sort of panoramic views. And the funicular railway was really the way to get to those panoramic views, but it was closed maintenance. So that was really annoying. So I thought, well, let's walk up there. And so for an hour and a half, we hiked up. And
very slowly.
Yeah. But let me tell you, the view was absolutely worth it.
And it was a beautiful day. I think it got up to 10 degrees.
So this was the best weather in our trip.
It was gorgeous.
Yeah. And so up from the top of what in English is called Mount Mercury, there in Baden-Baden, we could look out far and wide into France. We could see
the Rhine River.
Yeah, we could see Strasbourg from a distance as well. So it was just an incredible view. So it was really, really worth it. So we wandered on down. We grabbed some lunch at a pretty little cafe in Baden-Baden. And at that time, Alison got to fulfill an ambition that she had had since she was 12 years of age? 13. And that was?
To order something in German. So I said, 2 Stücke Schwarzwälder Kirschtorte bitte.
And in English that is?
2 pieces of Black Forest cherry cake, please.
There you go. So we had some Black Forest cherry cake because of course Baden-Baden is in the Black Forest region of Germany.
That's right. But the cherry layer was like, it had alcohol in it, and it was kind of thick, hard gel thing, and it tasted kind of like medicine, and it was, very disappointing.
Anyway.
And expensive.
Yes, and so we had to wander around Baden-Baden for a while, and we discovered that it's really quite. I think it's a place where wealthy people go, because a lot of the shops were sort of the
high-end shopping.
Yeah, very high-end shopping. And one of the shops was called Christ, and it was a jewelry shop. It seems that there is a chain of jewelry shops in Germany called Christ.
Yeah, because we saw one in Munich too.
In Munich as well. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, go figure. So that was our time in Baden-Baden. So that was quite a nice. Actually, no, we the first thing next morning we went to the old castle up in Baden-Baden, up on the hill. So from Mount Mercury we could look down and see the castle, and so we went to the castle first thing the next morning. And so that was quite an impressive thing to look at as well. Yeah,
it's a ruined castle, but it's from, like, I don't know, a long time ago. And but we could walk, climb up parts of it. So it's been reinforced and checked, and there were lots and lots of stairs, and we could go up the tower. And that was really good too.
They even have a restaurant in it, but it wasn't open while we were there. So looks like a lot of stuff wasn't open while we were there.
January's the time to have a holiday.
Yes. Anyway, so that was the 16th of January. We went to the castle, and from there we drove to a place called Stuttgart, and we met up with Annalise at Stuttgart, which was great. And while we were waiting for her train to arrive, we sat in the sort of the main, I don't know, parliamentary type square, which was quite nice. Near that was a sort of a bit like a Pitt Street Mall here over there. So that was pretty cool. It took us a little while to find Annalise. We were using Messenger Locator, and we're like, we should be right near one another, but it turned out she was above us, a level above us, and we were below.
We were in the underground, and we didn't know that there were more platforms up.
Anyway, so eventually we found up, and we had lunch with her, and then we headed off to the Mercedes-Benz Museum. And this was one of the things I was very keen to go to. And I think, Alison, you liked all the history stuff.
Yeah, there was a lot of history about the Benz guy. What's his name?
Yep, Carl Benz.
Okay. Carl, was it?
I think it was Carl.
Okay. But yeah, about him, and because he was one of the pioneers of cars, of any kind of car. So I found that part quite interesting. There was a lot about that, and there were old cars there and stuff like that. So out of the 3 car museums that we went to, not counting Ayrton Senna display, that was the most interesting one for me.
And so for me, it was interesting seeing all the different cars that Mercedes-Benz have made over the years. But I'm a real car racing nut. And so I was particularly keen on the last display that we came to, which was a whole range of Mercedes-Benz racing cars, which included things like the 2016, 21, and 2020 and 21 Formula One cars, as well as some of the really old Formula One cars. There was an Indy car there, sports cars. So there were lots of really, really cool racing cars. We could also play a pit stop game. We could also do a reflex type game, which the Formula One drivers do. So there was some really cool stuff at the Mercedes-Benz Museum. So we finished up there, found a nice Italian restaurant. Italian restaurants are quite a theme during our trip.
It's because you like Italian food.
That's right, and I don't like much else. So anyway, so that was all good. And then next morning, which was the 17th of January, we went to the Porsche Museum, also in Stuttgart. And this was the one I was particularly looking forward to. Porsche has a very rich history in motorsport, and I wasn't disappointed. I saw the beautiful Porsche 956 sports car from the 1980s, which was great. Alain Prost's 1986 championship winning McLaren, which was powered by Porsche, was there as well. So lots of really, really cool racing cars, as well as just a number of beautiful 911 Porsche cars that have been made over the years, as well as other models. It was a pretty cool place. Not quite as historical for Alison as the Mercedes one.
Still pretty good.
But it was very cool.
And Porsches are pretty.
They are.
Yeah, they've got their nice curvy hoods, and they're very, very nice.
Alison said there was a blue one that she would like to take home.
Yeah.
Yes, there was a red one that I wanted to take home. So, and Annalise and I got to be photographed in one too. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so from there, we hopped on the Autobahn and headed to Munich. And fun fact, it was on that drive to Munich that I got to my fastest speed on an Autobahn. So for those of you who don't know, there are sections of Autobahns in Germany where there is no speed limit. And so I reached 167 kilometers an hour. It was a great challenge to do that because I had to try and do it without Alison noticing. And so that meant I couldn't really sort of floor it or whatever. I had to kind of gradually sort of get to that point.
So I wouldn't freak out.
That's right. So anyway, so that was cool. So enjoyed that. But as we came into Munich on the 17th of January, it was very foggy.
It was.
Very foggy.
But we went for a walk and the city was packed. Like there were just people.
So it was
everywhere.
late Saturday afternoon, Saturday night. It was packed.
Yeah. But we found a church which had a tower that you could climb up. So we went up to the top of the tower because Mark likes views. And so we could see quite well, even though it was foggy, you couldn't see as far. But it was, it was really, really good. Lots and lots and lots of churches in our view, and also lots and lots and lots of cranes.
Annalise and I counted about 17 cranes.
And so, that was just facing one direction.
Yeah, and so, no, there was multiple directions.
Oh, was it? Okay.
But in Stuttgart and in Munich, there seemed to be an awful lot of construction occurring at that time. So, yes, but the panoramic view from that particular tower was really cool. We went to a nerdy kind of sci-fi sort of shop, and
like a pop culture shop.
Pop culture type shop. I was quite happy because I got to hold a lightsaber, which is something I always wanted as a kid.
Yeah, and there was a Demogorgon statue.
Yes, from Stranger Things. So that was pretty
cool.
That was pretty cool as well. So,
and he wanted to get a Star Wars T-shirt that had
different pictures of Darth Vader, which sort of said happy, sad, angry, that sort of stuff.
But they all look the same because he has a mask on.
Yeah, and they didn't have my size. So
very sad.
Yeah, but that's the way it goes. But in Munich, there was an Italian restaurant just next to where we were staying, and so we ate both nights that we were there at that place. That was pretty cool.
That was good because it was freezing, so it was nice to only have to walk 10 meters to a restaurant.
It was indeed. And so on the 18th, we had a full day in Munich. And what did we get up to there?
Oh, I don't remember the order, but we went to the palace.
Yeah.
What was it called?
It was the Bavarian sort of ruler's palace in Munich.
Yes, and it was
huge,
ridiculously huge, lavish, ornate, over the top, just room after room, paintings on the ceilings and the walls and gilding and big statue. There was a great big statue thing that was all made of shells. It was covered in shells. It was just incredible.
And it seemed that every new Bavarian ruler added on to this house. It was just massive. Yeah. And so there was a treasury that was a part of that, which had all of these, treasures, jewels.
And one room in the treasure house was devoted to relics. And so there was these little bits of bone, which supposedly bones of saints or whoever. And they were put in these ornate gold and jeweled cases, like jewelry box type things and stands and stuff. It was just quite ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we went into a theatre, which was attached to that whole complex, which was quite beautiful.
It's a nice theatre. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. And so we
But we were very tired.
and we grabbed some German food called McDonald's for lunch that day, and then we headed off to the BMW Museum. And BMW has a history making aircraft engines, motorbikes, as well as cars. And so there was a lot of engines on display. It was a more technical type museum than the Porsche and Mercedes museums were,
which didn't interest us as much.
Yeah, and
especially not me.
Well, yeah, I didn't mind it, but and I was disappointed by the lack of racing cars that were there. So there was a BMW Sauber car from, I think it was 2008. But BMW had a lot of touring car sort of history, and there really wasn't a lot of that. So I was kind of disappointed by that. There was a car that won the 1987 Australian Touring Car Championship at the hands of Jim Richards, which had been repainted by Ken Doane in all sorts of bright Ken Doane kind of colours. That was on display there. But
Mark thought that was just disgraceful.
I thought it was an aberration. It should have been left as it was. That Jim Richards car was beautiful in its original state. But anyway, it was okay, but not as good as the other two museums. And so the next morning, the 19th of January, Annalise headed off, caught the train back to Berlin, sorry, and we headed over to Salzburg in Austria. And I must say that the amazing thing as you drive into Austria is just the mountains, the snow-capped mountains that you see. It's actually quite incredible. And we drove into Salzburg, and I must say I was quite unimpressed by what I saw in Salzburg originally. It looked like a bit of a dump.
That was just the outskirts, though.
But once we got to our hotel and we went for a walk, we discovered there was actually quite a beautiful side of Salzburg. So we kind of went to a walk up to a high place where we could overlook Salzburg, and that was quite good. And then we wandered on down and found ourselves at the Mozart Museum, because Salzburg is the place where Mozart was born.
Yeah, and lived for quite a while. So was that the same day? I don't remember.
Yeah.
We went into the Mozart's birth house where he was actually born and lived for quite a while. There was also another Mozart museum there, which I think he lived in as an adult, but we didn't go to that one. But it was very interesting, and lots of portraits, lots of information about him on the audio guide, which was well done, and just amazing. Like I'm standing in the room that Mozart was actually born in and was raised in, and so that was very good.
And I suppose the lane that museum was in was a very pretty lane with lots of different shops all along it, and one of which was a Lindt chocolate shop. And so at Alison's insistence, we got we got some hot chocolates, which I think in Australian dollars were probably close to about $13 to $14 each.
Yeah.
But they were pretty good. They were much better than the one in
really good.
Yes.
Very sad when they finished.
Yes.
And there was also a Red Bull shop in that street, wasn't
it? Red Bull Racing shop. Yeah, we get merchandise for the Red Bull Racing Formula One team.
Yeah.
Because of course Red Bull is an Austrian brand. And so we had a great Austrian tucker, namely pizza, at the Italian restaurant, not too far from where we were staying. You can see there's a bit of a theme here. I think I had 6 pizzas on my trip away, but
surprised.
Yep. So anyway, so that was good. And then the next morning we went on the Sound of Music tour. And so that was one that Alison really wanted to go on, because I don't think I've ever watched the Sound of Music in full. But so Alison, tell us about your memories of the Sound of Music.
Well, so it was a bus ride, and our tour guide was actually from South America.
Costa Rica.
Yeah, but he was great, and he very enthusiastic and fun guy, and he asked everybody where they were from at the beginning, and there were definitely majority Aussies. That was really interesting. Lots and lots of Aussies. So we just got driven around in the bus to lots of different places. So we saw the
we saw where the Red Bull headquarters is. That was one thing. We saw a beautiful lake.
The gazebo, which the gazebo had been moved because the gazebo originally was in the grounds of a hotel, and the hotel people got sick of people coming and having their photos taken in this gazebo. So they got the gazebo moved.
For non-Sound of Music people,
come on, that's no one except you.
The gazebo apparently is where one particular scene took place.
With Lisa.
There you go. So
everybody knows this, Mark.
I didn't at the time. So anyway, so that's a fun fact. So yes, so
and we saw the back of the big, I think, the building anyway, where they filmed the lake scenes, with the big sort of balcony thing, where the Baroness and Max and the captain were having pink lemonade when the kids came into view in the rowboat and then tipped over. But that big balcony thing was not attached to the house that they showed us in the movie. So they had to shoot those scenes without showing the building that balcony was attached to, and then shoot other scenes with the other house that was supposedly the Von Trapp's house. So that was interesting. Yeah, but we only saw that from across the lake. And then we went up to a village called,
it's like Moonsday or something.
I can't remember now.
There's something to do with the moon. Yes, which had the church where the wedding happened
in the movie.
Yeah.
And it was a really cute, beautiful town. It was very, very cold.
Beautiful lake there, which had mist kind of coming up with the sort of the mountains behind it.
Around it,
Very, very scenic.
Yeah. So we just found a cafe and had a bakery, I think, and had some lunch there and walked around. But we had to be careful, I think, didn't we, walking around there? It was a bit icy, but not as bad as Amsterdam, thank goodness. Yeah. But the drive was gorgeous. We drove past lots of lakes and mountains and Red Bull headquarters. But it was just the most gorgeous, gorgeous route that we drove on.
Yeah. So Austria definitely won most scenic place.
Yeah. Very nice.
As part of our trip. So that was great. And then we hopped in the car and we headed north into the Czech Republic, and we came to a place called Český Krumlov. Now, when we were originally planning this trip, I thought, I don't want to drive all the way from Salzburg to Prague in one hit after the Sound of Music tour. So I kind of put into Google where would be a good place to stop between Salzburg and Prague. And it said Český Krumlov. And it turns out Český Krumlov is a beautiful, beautiful place to go and visit.
So a little bit like Bruges, in that it's kind of been preserved. The old town part is very, very old, lots of all cobbled streets, some very, very, very narrow ones, not many cars go in there, and pretty much a tourist centre. I don't think, well, I asked the waiter at dinner and he said only about 250 people live in that section of the town. Everyone else lives around outer suburbs or area, in the outskirts. But it was very, very nice, very old buildings all close together, old churches, old castles, lots of quaint shops. Very nice.
So we had to walk around.
And canals, and the river, the Vltava, I think, Vltava River, which also called the Moldau, which has a very famous piece of music written about it, which I absolutely love. So that was a nice thrill too. And
so we had, again, I had pizza. There was a pretty cool restaurant, Papa's Living Restaurant it was called. So it was, so we had a good walk around, and then the next morning, so that was the 20th of January, next morning the 21st of January, we woke up and my weather app said that Chesky Krumlov was at that time -12, feels like -16. And we thought, oh.
Help.
So anyway, so we did go out and brave it, and we walked around and kind of checked out some places that we hadn't seen the previous night, including, excuse me, a museum in the castle, as well as going up another church tower and just seeing a wonderful panoramic view of Chesky Krumlov. So it was, I would highly recommend, if you're going to be over in that sort of region, that you check out Chesky Krumlov. It is a beautiful, beautiful place. In fact, I'd rate it more highly than Bruges. So,
I don't know about that.
yeah.
It was very nice. And it was much, much quieter too, so it must be more of a secret than Bruges.
That's probably the reason why I rate it more highly.
Yeah.
So, yes, so it was very good. So, anyway, on the 21st, we check out Chesky Krumlov, and then we drive about 2.5 hours north, and we get to Prague.
And in Prague, we had to navigate our way through and find a parking spot, which was very difficult. We did find one, and then the very grumpy man at the car park booth said we had to pay in cash. So I then had to walk very quickly while Mark stayed with the car to find an ATM, but I'd forgotten that as soon as I walked away from Mark, I had no internet because I was just hotspotting off him, but I didn't have time to go back. And so I was like, okay, I remember what the thing said. So I walked as fast as I could, found the ATM, came back, paid the grumpy man, and made it to our river cruise.
Yes, so we had a river cruise. So that was what Alison was concerned about.
Yeah.
Yes, we had a river cruise at 2 o'clock.
3
o'clock,
I think.
And so we had to be there at 1:45, and I think we got there a few minutes before the time we were due. So praise God for the parking spot that came up, that Alison was able to find the ATM. But Prague is really not a friendly city for driving around.
Well, most of them weren't.
Yeah. So the river cruise.
Oh, so nice. So nice. So we got great views of Prague Castle, and we went under the Charles Bridge, and we're told about different buildings on each side, and it's a really nice wide river and just amazing big old buildings everywhere.
Same river that goes through Chesky Krumlov?
Yes, same river.
Yep.
Big grand buildings. Very long history of being the capital of Bohemia back in the day, and even the capital of the Holy Roman Empire at one point under Charles IV.
And they really loved Charles IV.
Well, he did, yes. He really, because he was the Holy Roman Emperor and made Prague his capital, that's when a lot of the really amazing buildings were built, and Prague really had its golden age under him. I can't remember when, a very long time ago.
It was a very long time ago.
1500s.
Something like that. Okay.
I think so.
Yes. So it was. Yes, they really, really did love Charles IV.
He named the bridge the Stone Bridge, but because that was a boring name, they renamed it the Charles Bridge, and it's just got about 30 statues all the way along it.
Yep.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, very impressive thing. So it's only really used by people, not by cars or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so we went there, did the cruise, saw all these great things, and then.
Then we drove to the hotel.
Let me say, finding a park there was one of the most stressful things. I thought I had a longer term park, and the spot was taken, and I was not happy. And but anyway, by the grace of God, that person who took the spot that I thought was vacant actually left quite quickly. So we found a spot.
Oh.
And then we headed off back into
the city,
the old town,
by tram, which was good
to see.
We saw a classical concert in a cathedral right next to the Charles Bridge, so that was lovely. So there was the organist on the massive church organ, which made an amazing sound. He played Bach's Toccata, among other things, and was a really, really, really good organist. And then there was a string group of 6, and they played a lot of very famous works, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, except that the only parts that were warmed were our bottoms. There was a seat warmer, and the rest of us absolutely freezing.
It was a freezing cold venue.
It was so cold, and the poor performers, they had a heater above them,
Which stopped working.
it was working at the beginning, and it stopped working during their first set, and they kept on. You saw them keep on going to the PowerPoint and trying to fiddle with it, trying to get it working again, and it did not come back on, and they had to play their instruments with freezing cold hands.
Yeah.
In this freezing cold church. I don't know how they did it, but they did a great job. It was really nice.
And yes, and there was a very good singer too as part of it.
Oh, the singer.
Yeah.
I think she was an alto. Her voice was so beautiful. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we met a bloke sitting beside me. His name was Aaron. He was from the Canary Islands. He was lovely, friendly bloke. So it was nice to chat to him too.
Yeah. So we headed back to our hotel where there was a restaurant, and for once I didn't have pizza. I had a hamburger.
I had beef goulash, which is classic Czech food. Yes, with dumplings.
It's really a Hungarian dish.
They said it's a
yeah,
but they do have it a lot in
Czech Republic.
Well, they were part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire for a long time, so fair enough.
Yeah. So the next day, which was the 22nd of January, it was about -6, I think, in Prague, and we had a 3-hour
walking tour. Not quite as cold as Bruges because it wasn't windy.
Didn't have the wind,
but it was still really cold. But anyway, we saw lots of great places. We saw the theatre where Mozart debuted Don Giovanni, and our guide, who's a local Prague woman, is very, very proud to tell us that Mozart said to the Czech people, "You understand me," and that's why he debuted. No, he didn't debut Don Giovanni there. He brought it to Prague, and they loved it because in Vienna they all fell asleep.
Yeah.
Well, especially the emperor.
Yeah.
Everyone else probably just followed his lead and didn't like it.
And talking about other musical greats, In Excess filmed 3 film clips in Prague back in the 80s with the Kick album, so Never Tear Us Apart. But 2 others were Guns in the Sky and New Sensation, which were filmed at the Municipal Palace, which we also saw as part of our tour. So, yes, so wide range of music there.
Okay. We also saw, we went to the main square where there was a big statue to Jan Hus, who was a very early reformer, like I think over 100 years before Luther, who was burnt at the stake as a heretic by the Catholic Church because he was teaching people in the Czech language, although that wasn't so much the problem. More of the problem was that he was doing confessions for free. He wasn't charging them money. How dare he? So they called him a heretic and burned him at the stake. So that was sad.
He was very popular. But what was really sad, as you know, we see this statue of Hus. We discover from the guide that it's around about 70% of people in Czechoslovakia or the Czech Republic are atheists, and that the largest church, which was registered in the Czech Republic, was the Church of the Order of the Jedi, 21,000 people. And so I was quite struck just by the need for the gospel to go out into that particular place. So, so we also went to the Jewish Quarter.
Yep. Oh, and sorry, in that square was the astronomical clock, the very, very famous astronomical clock. And so we were taken there at 10 to the hour so that our guide could tell us all about what to expect it to do. And it dates back from 1300s, I think. And it's still got the same clock mechanisms running it, which is amazing. And basically there's a skeleton who pulls a rope, to make a bell ring to remind you that as each hour passes, you are 1 hour closer to your death. Sounds a bit like Pink Floyd in time. And then the 12 apostles appear in windows above the clock and parade around, and then a cock crows and everything stops. But the clock itself also is amazing because the clock face shows 3 different types of time. Can't remember exactly what, like Babylonian, Roman, and something else. Plus the phases of the moon and the position of the sun in the sky. So yeah, it's really very, very, very clever. Yeah.
But we were told it was listed as the second most overrated tourist attraction in Europe.
After Mona Lisa.
Yes, after Mona Lisa, yeah.
But, yeah.
So we saw that, went to the Jewish Quarter where we saw some synagogues and a Jewish cemetery. And our tour guide was kind of sympathetic to us, tried to make things go as quickly as possible because she understood just how cold things were. So the tour finished, and we had about a bit over an hour to kill before our next tour up at the castle, which overlooks Prague. So we found a nice restaurant which served Italian food, but I had a lasagna this time.
It's still Italian.
Not a pizza. So
I don't remember what I had.
Go Italian food.
But I had a hot
you
mulled.
had cannelloni.
I had cannelloni, and I had a hot mulled wine, which was really, really nice. We were just so freezing that we had to go inside. That's why I got a hot drink. So, and I didn't want coffee; it would have kept me awake. So that was very yummy.
So we head up to the castle. We had to go up a number of steps to get up there. We had a tour guide to ourselves for about 20 minutes or so, who kind of gave us some history of the whole place. I must say, if you're in Prague, it is a very impressive sight as you look over the river from where the old town and the Jewish Quarter is to seeing this castle sort of precinct. And
apparently the biggest castle precinct in
the world.
Yeah.
In the world.
And unfortunately, we got there at 2, but it was closing at 4, which I don't think we'd realised that. So,
yeah, so
we didn't get to see very much of it.
So we saw a big church there.
St. Vitus's Cathedral.
Yep.
St. Vitus.
Yeah, where King Wenceslas
is buried.
Yes.
Yes, a chapel all to himself. So it's very interesting. He was killed in 900 and something. And so the legend of King Wenceslas goes back that far. He was murdered by his brother on the steps of a church somewhere out of Prague, but he was then brought into the cathedral. And he's been a saint since then. And now they still have St. Vitus's Day every year, and I think a week of some special celebration. Even though it's a secular society now, they still have St. Wenceslas Day. So there you go.
And again, it's so many churches, Christian statues, things like that in Prague, and yet it's such an atheistic society. It's just really, quite bizarre. So I went up the church tower again and looked at the incredible sort of panoramic view of Prague.
And I chose not to do the 300 steps up and down.
It was really worth it. And so there was, what else did we go in there? There was a hall, like palacey kind of thing.
Yep.
There was a chapel.
Yeah. It's really nice.
Which had some interesting things. There was a lane with shops, but they were closing all that up.
The Golden Lane, and all the shops are really, really tiny, but apparently back a long time ago, the goldsmiths worked in that lane. So that's why it's called the Golden Lane. But there were lots of cute little shops with doorways about this high on me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes, and we were relieved to finally get back to our motel room or hotel room,
exhausted
because we were very tired.
Our backs were sore,
and it was a very cold day, and so we were glad that was over. Anyway, the next day, which was our last day in Europe, the 23rd of January, we drove from Prague very early in the morning, about 20 to 7 we left, up to a town called Wittenberg in Germany.
Also known as Lutherstadt Wittenberg.
Yes, because it was the town where Martin Luther lived and worked, and famously nailed his 95 Theses to the door at what is today called All Saints Church. And so there's now not the original door there, but sort of bronze doors, I think they are, with all the 95 Theses actually printed out in Latin.
Engraved in it, in the door, yeah.
So we checked that out. But prior to that, we caught up with Annalise. So Annalise was back, which was great with us. So she caught the train there, and we checked out the Luther Museum as well as the Philip Melanchthon house. And Melanchthon was a co-worker with Luther in terms of the Reformation. So it was just good to be reminded of the work of those forebears in calling the Catholic Church of the time to repentance and in really starting the Protestant movement, which we benefit from now. And so it was really, really good to go and see that. It was actually quite cold there. We had lunch at a cafe across from the Melanchthon house, and Annalise and I had tourist waffles stacked with ice cream and things like that. So we were both struggling to finish those off.
And I had an English breakfast.
So, yes, you better move forward, I think. Yes, so Alison disappeared and keeps disappearing. So we did that, and then headed back to Berlin. So my last opportunity to drive on an autobahn. I think I hit about 160 kilometers an hour on that. And then we went to Annalise's place, spent some time with her there, then headed to the airport. And let me say, it was incredibly hard for both of us to say goodbye.
Lots of tears.
To Annalise. But, you know, at the time of recording, it's about 2 months, 3 days till she comes back. Very hard to leave her behind. But we're really thankful that we had the opportunity to go and see her. So we hopped on the plane, and again, as coming over, we had a stopover at Doha, and then on the plane to Sydney. Thankfully, the flight times flying back were actually less than coming over. So I think there's something about the jet stream there which made it shorter, but it still was an awfully long time in economy, particularly for someone with long legs like me, but even with Alison, it was hard work. So we got back to Sydney.
Very little sleep, hardly any sleep.
So I probably had 2 hours sleep in
me too.
45-hour period or something like that. So we got back around about 7 a.m., got our baggage, went through customs, etc. Trains were a bit slow getting back, but we got back around 9. Saw our dear friend Rodney Rammers from church on the train as we were heading back, so that was good. And then we just got home, had to wheel our suitcases from the train station back to our house not too far away, and got home, and so ended our European adventure.
And the forecast temperature for the day we got home was 38?
38.
I think.
I tell you what, the first thing I felt was just the humidity when I got back. That's one thing I really, really noticed. So,
but it's a relief not to have to plan your layers for the day when you get dressed.
That's right. So as we wind up, Alison, what were some of the, I suppose, things that you learned or things that stood out during our trip?
Well, it was wonderful to see Annalise. That was the main thing. Well, I think what stood out to me was just how old all the buildings are in all these cities. Of course, we did go and visit the old parts of these cities because they're more interesting. And they're so solid, and they're just built to last for centuries, unlike the buildings around here, which last, a few decades and then they get demolished. And they're very ornate, they took pride in their building and did a really good job. And so much history in all these places. Very, very interesting. And of course, European history is our history because we are of European descent. So very, very interesting stuff. Yeah.
I think for me, I was struck by how many trucks are on German and Czech roads. I've never seen as many trucks on roads as I have in those places. So that was pretty bizarre. I found the hotel rooms were bizarre in that you had a sheet which covered your mattress, but no other sheet, and just a doona. And it wasn't just one doona for the two people; it was one doona each.
Yep.
And so inevitably, we found ourselves too hot in these hotel rooms.
You're either too hot or too cold.
Yeah.
And they didn't provide so many things that you just take for granted, even in the cheapest Aussie motel. So a kettle, some mugs, and a few sachets of tea and coffee and milk. I was, a thing of milk in the fridge, which often there was no fridge, no face washer. But yeah, the sheets. For goodness sake, you want a choice in how warm you want the bedding to be. That's very annoying. Anyway, rant over.
Yeah, so it was a bit bizarre. Like Alison, I was just struck by how old everything is. As I mentioned earlier, just struck by just how much war has happened in these places that we visited. The other thing I was struck by too, when we looked at the 3 car museums, I was unaware that each of those companies had used forced labour from people taken as captive during the war.
World War II, yeah.
World War II, and so
the Nazis made them.
Yeah,
they wanted them to keep producing stuff for the war,
yeah,
and made them. And I think which one was it? The Porsche Museum. It said that a couple of the directors of the factories were fired because they weren't complying with what the Nazis wanted well enough. But still, they were.
And so each
sort
of those
complicit, I suppose.
Yeah,
but
so
they didn't really have much choice.
And Ferdinand Porsche actually spent a couple of years in a French jail as a result of that. So it was, and so it was just interesting just to see the way in which these companies noted that very dark period in their histories and were at pains to try and make amends, not hide it, make amends as a result of that. So that was an interesting thing as well. But anyway, if you've watched us to this point, well done. Thank you. I hope it's been informative for you, and hopefully it's going to help us to remember what we experienced over the last few weeks. Anyway, thanks for watching.
Bye.